Well, hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the pleasure and honor of having Ryan Shin, who is the guru on artificial intelligence and who owns a company that you really need to hear about. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you, Ken. Glad to be on the show.
Yeah, man. So, tell us your story. I mean, I know you're young, but tell us how you got to own this company or be part of the founders or whatever. And then I want to get more into data and more into artificial intelligence, but I want to know more
Sure.
about your company to start with
For
because it's kind of
sure.
fascinating what you do.
Yeah, well, my journey actually started in the fitness side of things. I worked for an organization called Orangetheory Fitness, and I was part of Ground Zero before any thought process franchise was ever in existence. They sent me in to understand whether this was a franchise that we could sell. Thankfully, it was. Ended up opening up the first 75 locations and then created the sales and operations manual for the franchise, which has now grown to what it is today. However, I was working 7 days a week and traveling every other day. And I said, this isn't for me. So I hopped over to the tech side, started working in Silicon Valley, working for some great companies and learning how to then incorporate a go-to-market strategy within the tech space. From there, rose the ranks and became a consultant, where I was consulting with startup organizations and taking them from 0 to 500 as quick as possible by laying in foundation, infrastructure, structures, and processes. That's where I stumbled upon Settle It, where we had a technology where we were trying to take it out to the personal injury space, and unfortunately it fell flat. And that was part of because we're trying to educate people in the healthcare industry. When I came in, I said, oh, let's strip all that. Let's actually talk to firms. Let's talk to these attorneys. Let's talk to the way they operate as a business, what makes sense in terms of the world of efficiency. And we started fine tuning from there. We started building up the product. Obviously we're talking about artificial intelligence, but when we first started, we were using a different type of AI called attorney intelligence. And the feedback that we received from all these firms that we're working with allowed us to really fine tune and shape our product to then deliver data at a speed and scale which the industry has never seen before. So once we created the product, we went out to the market, started going to different conferences such as PILMA, which was a massive conference for us and in the world of exposure and just getting to know some of the most esteemed firms that were attending the conference in itself. And because of shows like that allowed us to really launch our product into the personal injury space. So we are first to market. There's no existence of the level of technology that we're providing in the industry. However, being well received so far.
Yeah. So you said something that's really, I think, profound. I don't even know if you knew what you said, but when you said, we actually stripped it and we went and asked them what they needed and tried to understand their business. I think sometimes when people they get in their head, well, this is what they need, or this is what, and I've learned a long time ago, I do a survey every year to my members saying, what do you like we're doing, what don't you like, what's your number one deal you like, what's the thing you like the least, what we're not doing that you'd like to see us doing, and getting feedback because, you got to give people what they want. It's like marketing. You got to figure out what the pain points are, what's keep them up at night. You don't know that, how can you give them what they want? If you don't know what they need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And part of the process wasn't just understanding, well, what is our value in respects to managing partners, but it's more so what is our value in respects to the paralegals that will be touching the product and digging into the data, or the leadership that's in charge of the efficiency of the operations and how to implement those strategies accordingly by incorporating this data. And so we spoke with everybody from the intake to case managers, to paralegals, to legal assistants, to attorneys, to managers, operations, office managers, all the way up until to managing partners. And because of that, that helped us really define the user experience. And we're not led on with our own knowledge of what we think the industry is. No, let's hear it from the industry.
Yeah. So explain to our listeners and viewers exactly what Settle It is and how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So Settle It, we essentially about 5 years ago, we're in the manual medical record retrieval space. And when we were really into that space, we got to learn a lot of the pains that firms were going through on a daily basis, just for requesting records, the cost that went into it, the no records found, not having the right providers, and then obviously the length of time to getting the records in hand to make a determination. But oftentimes, once they do have that record in hand, what they found out was they didn't have a case that they thought they did, right? Or they had more to the case. We just thought it was very inefficient to the timeline and to access information. And quite frankly, we got tired. So from there, we created a technology, an API, if you will, to start connecting into multiple databases right across the country. Call it your provider databases, claims databases, and pharmacies like CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens of the world, connected right into their systems to gain access to digital data. So if you were to take a paper medical record and those words jumped right off the page, entered your screen, bring it back 7 to 10 years, all the way up into real time in their pharmacy, medical, and claims history, and to get that delivered with a single click within 5 minutes, well, that's going to give you a very comprehensive understanding of what your client has been through. A lot of firms are struggling with even just getting a provider list. Fantastic. In 5 minutes, you're going to get a comprehensive understanding of which providers that your client has visited, when they visited, the specialty, everything that you would need to make that request. The only difference is now you're getting this in 5 minutes. So imagine speaking to a client, getting this list and being able to validate their provider journey, to set them off right, to understand what the case buildup is, if there's any unknowns or things that may impact the case at later stages. Well, fantastic. There's this instant gratification with digital data that comes along with the Settle It product. So that's what we're essentially providing. On the single event side, you're going to have different types of cases, whether it's your typical MVA, slip and fall. Regardless of that matter, you're going to have to go through a discovery stage. And oftentimes that's where you find all the unknowns. Well, great. We're a pre-discovery tool. Query the database, gain an understanding of what's filled into that case, the landmines and the gold mines. And that's essentially what we deliver. On the mass tort side, there's an incredible, unfortunately, there's a big problem in the industry in the way firms are trying to validate their claims or even have the right identity. And because of that, most firms are looking for specific diagnosis codes or drug codes to validate that the claimant was indeed affected by the product or whatever tort that you may be in. So what Settle It will do is we'll identify that for you. We'll validate those diagnoses. We'll validate those drug codes to ensure that you are pursuing the right claimant in the right time.
Yeah, I mean, I could see, because I was at the mass tort deal and they were talking about all this fraud by these lead companies, coaching people to say, yeah, I had this and this, and I went to this. Yeah, I was taking this drug during this period of time. And that will make it very clear very quickly whether or not they're lying or not.
Yeah,
save a lot of time.
And for those attorneys that took it into court and was turned away because it was fraudulent, well, we want to add that layer of protection, right? So
yeah, that's genius, man. And I would think you could charge this off as a case cost to your client.
Absolutely. So, we do provide itemized receipts that can be dispersed to the clients. Obviously, with this comes a level of automation. So, given that we're a tech company, we should have those abilities.
So what does it run different costs, or is it just a one flat fee for each
There's
search?
different costs. Let's talk about what a query is, right? So a query is when we take the first thing that we're going to do is we use your client's profile information, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to clean that up. Right, we're going to fill in all the missing gaps of data, whether it's they're missing social, missing date of birth, previous addresses. That's vitally important, especially if they've been to multiple providers across multiple states. So we want to fill in and enrich the data through our enricher tool as quick as possible. That's almost instantaneous. Once we do enrich that profile information, we're going to ping that across our network, all of our databases. And any successful matches that come back under that profile information, we're going to gather that. We're going to push that into our portal within 5 minutes, the digital data. If in the case we're able to pick up any documents like electronic medical records, in fact, about 2 weeks ago, we handed over 59 electronic medical records in a single pull. So that's a query. So it doesn't matter how much information, one single query can capture the history. Now, we can only capture information up to real time. So anything else beyond that would merit another query. A query can cost you anywhere from $85 a query to $115 a query. So very inexpensive to get a pretty great comprehensive download of the client. And of course, because we are connected into networks and not the provider themselves, there's no provider fees or cost per page for any documents we're able to retrieve. If we are able to retrieve any of those documents, that's coming within 24 to 48 hours.
I imagine that took a lot of work to get everybody to agree to that, because you got to probably sign a lot of indemnification agreements and things like that because
Well,
of
I mean, it took us
HIPAA.
4.5 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
it took us 4.5 years to connect into all these databases. We did it strategically and very quietly because we knew what we were creating. But there's a few pieces of motivation that allows us to evolve the product to where we need it to be. Number one is the 21st Century Cures Act, which mandates every provider to create an electronic copy of their medical record. And they had about 5-year grace period to do so. And fast forward to January of this year, they're federally being mandated, or they will incur fines up to millions for failing to transition. So this is so that patients can have easy access to their own records online. We knew that, so we wanted access to that digital data. So that was the motivation. But because we're connected into the networks, yes, we do need a level of authorization. It is a single authorization signature that we would need, indicating that the firm has the power of attorney to utilize the client's information to access. But with that authorization and an agreement with us, you can query the database away and start digging into the cases right away.
Well, you definitely were ahead of the curve. So having said that, what do you see in the future for AI? I mean, are we just seeing the tip of the iceberg, or what do you see? Our lawyers, if you were a lawyer, get ready to go over the next 2 or 3 years, what would you be looking at as far as AI?
Yeah, so look, I think there's a lot of misconceptions around AI, and a lot of that is maybe a lack of knowledge or understanding. If you're just getting turned on to tech or AI in that sense, and how to incorporate that within your workflows, well, there's a lot of learning to be had, right? Is it generative? Are you looking, what are you trying to develop within those processes, or what task are you trying to accomplish? And the misconception is this going to replace people? Now, no, it will not replace people today. Can it have the potential to replace people in the future? Absolutely. Yes, this artificial intelligence can indeed get involved, but the challenge, or not the challenge, but what I would suggest most firms, if you don't have even a baseline knowledge of what AI is, and even the first steps of getting into understanding how to incorporate that, start booking meetings with different products. Now, one thing that I'm going to mention with that is you have to understand most products, especially within this space, are brand new. So they don't have the full tenure. They don't have the full understanding and the full scope of their deliverables just yet. Everybody is really just, if you're in AI, you're really fine tuning your systems to really compute out efficiency for the firms. So start booking some meetings with different technologies, learn what's out there and what can be incorporated. And I think from those organizations and the way they communicate their services, you'll get probably a faster understanding of where AI can be incorporated in those processes. Because learning from scratch and trying to say, oh, we could put AI upon case acceptance to start generating, or we can do it after litigate filing suit for litigation to document all the notes, and great.
Yeah. We're actually gonna have a workshop going on at the same time for staff or marketing people, or at the Pilma Summit next year in May. The last day we'll have like a 3-hour workshop where you can learn how to use it in the marketing content, marketing videos, and then using it to manage cases, like with your company, even these different softwares, Esquire Tech. There's so many of them out there right now, that and I think, like you said, they're just developing. They're going to get better and better. We did a little AI workshop back in August in North Carolina, and we had about 50 firms show up. And it was more of a workshop. It was really like what we had then. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even record it. And my wife said, why didn't you record that? You could get sound bites. I said, because this stuff in 6 months is going to be completely different. But you got to start somewhere, right? You got to get the basis. And so we were sitting there showing, how to build avatars, what's out there now, what to watch out for, just like Chat GPT. What, in 6-8 months is like 3 versions come out?
Yeah.
I mean, and aren't they getting ready to launch another one? I heard
another one. Yeah. Chat GPT 4 Turbo.
Yeah. I mean, it just keeps, it reminds me of when the chip started out, the microchip, and about every 6 months, a new one would come out and it'd be stronger and stronger. No, I mean, it's not the same thing, but the speed of growth is probably faster. But the deal is, it just got to where, so much information can be stored in such a tiny little thing, and it just kept getting, more and more and more and more. And when is it going to stop?
If you think about, like, even just delivery of information, we went from floppy disks to CD-ROMs, CDs, to now USB keys, to then all the data into our computers, and it being on the cloud. So yeah, absolutely. Just like data and the way data is held, same thing is going to happen for artificial intelligence. It's just I think right now there's that new car smell to it. And there's only maybe a handful of organizations out there that are truly understanding how to do it appropriately and grow with the market. But yeah, it's here to stay. It's going to get more and more incorporated, and the more that you delay to get somebody in your firm or somebody on your staff to get learning, just to learn, to understand where and how these things can be incorporated, I say it's imperative to start today.
Yeah, I've told all my people at Pilma, they're one of the requirements of their job for the rest of this year, next year, is every month at our monthly meeting, they've got to bring me something that they could use with AI that they could use to make their jobs easier, faster, more productive, more client, whatever. I said, I'm not saying we're going to use it, but I want you to be looking for it, because I think, I'm not a Fortune 500. I can't afford a whole little AI department. But I mean, I think law firms can do that. I know what they're thinking. They're saying, well, we can't afford. And I know some companies that I know some SEO companies that are bringing in specialists in AI just to help them plan for the future because they know that it's going to be a big deal with the marketing, content, backlinks, coding, all this stuff. And so the smart SEO companies are already getting these people in there. I don't
Well,
know that law firms are, I ain't gonna say smart enough, but just not big enough or not. But I think you can still get your people start looking into it or bring, or yeah, everybody's got somebody in their firm that's a techie. I mean, I mean, I
yeah,
always say, who's the techie? When I'm doing my mastermind, okay, who in here is the techie in case I can't get this projector working? Because I know, it's not going to be me. And I'm not a techie. I don't even know how to type, but let me tell you, I'm playing with Chat GPT-4, not every day, but about every other day. I go in there and just play with it just to
yeah,
get used to giving it prompts
yeah,
because and then I ask it about other stuff, and I get a couple of emails from different people that are like supposed to be the gurus on this, and that keep sending me stuff every week or two about what new has come out. And half of it I don't care about, but there's little things that you can find that you need to check out. It might not be worth the darn, but it might be. But I think what I tell everybody is right is don't do like the lawyers that kind of tried to overlook when the websites, when the online, uh, online traffic and the websites and all that stuff, the internet. That's what I'm
yeah,
trying to say. And there's a lot of firms that got left behind to start with, and they had to catch up. And a lot of these young lawyers, I'm gonna be honest with you, I know some of them, they were killing it, man. They were getting and just like some of the lawyers left, they're a lot faster on LSA, but a lot of lawyers are just getting in LSA. It's been around 2 or 3 years. There's a lot of lawyers killed it the first 6 months. Is
yeah.
he who is first gets a big golden goose to start with.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ken, that's hilarious that you even brought that analogy up. I mean, that brings me back to about, well, let's say 10, 12 years ago. And I was calling lawyers at that time. At that time, I was selling websites. And the painstaking process to convince a firm that they need a website, and how, maybe this was maybe 14, 15 years back, but how imperative it was. And so a lot of people I talk to, I'm talking to them about data, and well, I've been doing this for 10, 12, 15 years, same process. And I said, wait a minute, were you that person I was trying to convince to buy a website?
Yeah,
We're that. This is the website now. Like, this
yeah,
is something that you're going to need for the future today. But you're right. And not to say, I know you're seeing organizations start to develop an AI strategy and even a position for AI. Well, I've actually come across quite a few firms out there right now that have AI specialists on staff, that they're specifically designed to look at products, look at the security and privacy elements, look at where, like the data infrastructure and where that's held, um, and you have people that are specifically assigned to incorporate AI into the firm, which I found absolutely fascinating, even at this early onset of the stage that we're currently in with AI in the legal industry.
yeah.
So,
I've actually got one of my mastermind members, believe it or not, Ryan. He has his brother used to be in the website business, sold it out, and it's helping him with his technology. And they are developing. They're developing. They're in beta now. Something that will do the medical chronologies and the CPT codes, and can write a brief from it.
yep.
Uh, so I mean, and it's they got quite an investment in it, but they believe in the future, and uh, so yeah. So I had forgot about that, but actually I got a member. It's actually, I mean, they're actually trying to create something, and they got a big law firm. They national. They do a lot of veterans work,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and but they've always been tech savvy. They've always been ahead of the curve, and I think they're going to. They are embracing it big time.
Well,
But yeah,
Ken, just to let you know, we have that ability today.
do
Uh,
you?
Yeah, we have the ability to create a chronology within 24 hours, regardless of the amount of pages. You can have 300,000 pages, you can have 2 pages, but it'll develop a chronology and a summarization. It'll be beautifully displayed. You'll have words that will be hyperlinked. You can hover over those words. It'll date when that incident was mentioned, give you a quick synopsis. You can click into that word and it'll take you to an abstract, a transcription, because sometimes they're hard to read, and also take you to the source document. All the impairments are beautifully indexed on the side here. You can click on psych issues, give you a timeline of those psych issues, and once again, click into it.
Well, you
And
didn't
you
tell me
can,
about that.
yeah. Well, it's actually it's been we have several add-ons that we've
Okay.
incorporated. So that's one of our add-ons, along with criminal history, bankruptcy, lien history, MVA history, crash reports, EMS reports,
Okay.
yeah, things of that nature. We're soon going to be in 2024, which is right around the corner, be introducing Medicare data, VA
That'd
records.
be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So we're trying to service the whole lot. We have a great understanding of what data is necessary, and we're not just trying to connect into data sources to extract data from those sources. We're actually trying to be the source.
Well,
Um,
you guys were to talk at our last summit. I mean, that was the buzz going around.
yeah,
I know you were getting in your data because when that happens, when the lawyers are around there talking at the water cooler
yeah,
or at the bar,
yeah,
you're gonna get hammered because nobody wants to miss out on the next best thing, right?
absolutely.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's great. So, any parting words? I mean, I think you really laid it out there really good about it, you know, of waiting. You can't wait. I think you give some really good advice. Any other good parting words you would give
Yeah, I
us?
mean, I probably have spoken to over 2,000 firms in the last, let's say, 8, 9 months here. I got to understand a lot of process and I guess business models of different landscapes of different types of firms. What I would say is don't be afraid of technology. And coming from Silicon Valley and going into this industry, I was flabbergasted. I could not believe the lack of technology and automation that was incorporated, or lack thereof, in a lot of these firms that I was speaking to. So please don't be afraid. Find a designated individual to go and learn and bring these pieces of value to your organization. On the settle it side, we're, believe it or not, we haven't actually even launched. We're looking to launch in February of next year. So we're preparing for that. So we're going to make some big noise over at the PILMA conference this year. But otherwise, if you really do want to learn more about this world, what we're doing in terms of your workflows and your processes, or even have a conversation with artificial intelligence, please get in touch with Ken to get in touch with me. More than happy to talk more about it with you.
Okay. And how can they get up with Settle It if they want to try out your product?
Yeah, so you can go onto our website, settlit.legal. That's SETTLIT.legal. Go onto our website. We have a little section where you can sign up and connect with me. My name is Ryan Shin. You'll find me on LinkedIn as well. And we have an Instagram channel as on top of that, settlit.legal.
Good deal, man. Well, thank you for taking time. This is it's just changed since I practiced 25 years ago, a little bit. Just a little,
Yeah,
just a
just a
little.
little bit.
Yeah, well, there was no websites. You know what? This is my last story. We're gonna go. So when I
Yeah,
started practicing in 1982, there was no uh, word processors. There was no computers. It was there was no copiers. It was Xerox was not a word to use. You had carbon paper. That's how you make copies. And you had IBM selectors with whiteout.
yep.
Yeah, that tells you how old I am. But you know, you have to change with the times. That's one thing I've always said. You have to pivot. You cannot sit. What worked yesterday might not work today, and definitely will not work tomorrow. You got to stay ahead of the curve. Those who do are those who are successful, and those who don't are the ones left with their hands in their pockets saying, "What happened, boss?"
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
really. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.